Hey, what's up, guys? So, these are the 10 tips I have for Guns of Glory. It's relatively straightforward, but basically, you want to train troops every day. And you're going to want to go through and you want to do more or less your rotating building upgrades, right? I mean, that's pretty much the point of these games, right? But the main thing that I'm going to stress here is that you want to focus a lot of your time and energy on your airship. And then a very good chunk of this game, more or less, is you spend a lot of time going in here to grab loot for your airship parts. So you pretty much do Pirate Showdown, more or less. And then you could rotate between that and doing your expeditions. So like right now there's curiosity expeditions going on, so you always want to go through and do a rapid challenge if you can, and do as many of these as you can possible. Of course, you'll always get limited by it eventually at some point, and so then you just rinse repeat. And so once you've gotten to a certain point, you do a 20-hour on the Undersea Rift, so you can get your items. You can obviously do this also for other individual items for the airship parts if you need them. But otherwise, the main thing that I have come to find with Guns of Glory is that you're going to spend 90% of your time going into the Armory tab, and you're going to find the first set you can get a hold of. So like in my case, I was able to get the Genesis armor set during a holiday event. And I think that's 90% of the game, to be honest with you. Like, you basically will mass level unless you spend. You're going to be taking advantage of basically the helper today must-dos to get your loot, and then you're also waiting on basically events in order to get better gear. Because most of the game, more or less, alright, like you can get the adventure pass, and that's going to give you like some extra bonuses, which I mean it's not bad. Like having the adventure pass, it's obviously going to be a bonus to you. It's a boon, right? But I mean, really, most of your stats come out of your armor, your gemstones, then you have the guards, and then their actual weapons as well. So there's a fair bit of stats in both guard weapons, there's a fair bit of stats in the airship, and then there's a fair bit in the armor pieces themselves. Again, the armor pieces are really difficult to acquire because, well, part of that problem is that you've got to get things like the Genesis elixirs in order to be able to get the Genesis armor and then use those. And it's all kind of a loot table based system. So you're not going to just, you almost have to randomly hit it luckily. And that's the other half of the battle with this game. But again, most of your time is going to be spent basically working on that. In terms of how I set up my buildings, I would say if I was somebody looking back on this, I would say you really don't need to focus too much on building an army when you're starting out. You, if anything, don't need this many hospitals. If anything, you need a lot of iron and you need a lot of silver mines. And I would divvy up more of your wood and timber that way as well. Because again, resource buildings in this game are king. You basically need resources to be able to progress and level. And again, it's not uncommon for people to have 20 to 30,000% into a single stat. Like this game, you worry about the people that are 4 to 500,000% into a single stat. I will say that as far as like your progressive tiers, obviously the highest tier imaginable is going to be your ideal unit type. But again, you're not usually going to be able to get there unless you spend. So unless you're spending, you really don't need to sweat that too much. You just need to build whatever you can build and go off of that alone. Because that, honestly, that's really about all you can do. Because you save a lot of your resources so that you can then do your castle upgrades and work them up. That's my first tip. That's general, like, that's game logic. That's just how it goes. Now, my second tip actually comes down to, like, playing the events. And again, I think a lot of people will do what they'll do is they'll save their gold. I think in general, what you need to do is save gold and don't even spend gold. Like, you genuinely don't want to bother doing that because it's bad. Like, you will have a harder time playing the game than somebody that is saving and waiting for those events. Like, that is honestly the way you want to play Guns of Glory. Because in general, what you want to use that gold for, more or less, is you can go into the actual black market, and once in a while, you'll actually find deals in here from time to time, like elixirs, blood amber. This is, in my opinion, a better use of gold than there is in a lot of other places. It's just you have to be lucky in finding the items on the market. So like right now, there's 1,000 master axes at a price of 50k. which that's pretty crazy. Like, I don't know if I'll bother with that. With 50k on the line, chances are whoever's wanting it wants it pretty bad. But the point being is like if you store up a lot of gold, it doesn't take a lot in order to get the items that are super pay to win in the game. Like that's where you're gonna get a good chunk of them out of. Obviously, if you're doing master, you just run the spends every day for free. Again, once you get to a certain point, you can eventually start doing sailor recruitment. When you just take all your sailor recruitments like that and basically spend them. My tip for this is pick out like whatever your distance heroes are and your garrison heroes are. So like Henry the Second and Count Rochefort. And then there's another one in here. Where is he? Grimmaud. Between Grimmaud and Rochefort, those are your two garrison heroes. So you want those two as far as like on your wall and as far as defense goes. And then if you're going like distance, like I'm going to go Le Pen, because La Pen's pretty much a really decent distance hero. Now, of course, everybody gets Treville, so there's not really any point in trying to upgrade it Treville. Like in this game, getting purples and epics and legendaries is fairly like it's very dependent on spending, right? Like if you're going to get into the game heavy, you're gonna end up doing that. I mean, like me, I've basically dumped almost all of my XP and everything into La Pen, and so I have a really decent La Pen. So if ever I go out and attack somebody with marksman, I know I'm going to be doing some DPS because I've got the damage skills and it's all there. And again, didn't take me hardly any money to do that. Like that's just something that is just kind of a given. Now, I would say that, if, as you can tell, doing your missions and such is kind of a given. So I think it's, it goes without saying, but like you're going to find a lot of players that, they'll, I don't know. They basically smooch off of each other, but eventually war picks up in this game fairly quickly. It is, frankly, like the time to fight is very short. Like it does not take very long before you find yourself in wars in this game. I probably ran into a war in like the first 3 days. It didn't take very long at all. And my server was absolutely chaotic. And within like a month or two, it's very clear now that there are several people that are over 1 billion. So you don't really even pay attention to the might anymore. It's one of the more carefree games that I've played, where you can really casually just sit down and just not even worry about having any one thing, because you're not going to really get super focused on any one thing. Like, it's hard to be good unless you spend. That said, one thing you can also do is go through the doctor's lab and get your creation up. Obviously, your creation is going to give you some free bonuses and loot. So there's that. I mean, there's a lot of advice I could give you in terms of that, but it's really not all that complicated. It's just basically rinse, repeat, and go through all of what you have to do in there. I will say though that like for the amount of time spent, once you've gotten through your serial enlistments, and this is my kind of my third tip, right? You can do your shooting gallery and such from time to time, but what I recommend doing is actually going in and so once you've got your shooting gallery done for the day, you can actually go into the wonder map and look and see if you can find any wonders, because once in a while you'll find a wonder, and if you can grab it, they're good stuff. Like you want to go and find these if you can help it, but the trick is finding it. Then whoever owns it is also going to be like super difficult. The main thing is when you look at their profile from here, you can actually see what equipment they have if it's on. And then, of course, you can see what, you can look at their account and look and see what they have, what kingdom they're in, what level they are. If they've got wonders, it'll tell you what wonder they have. And again, all this information is pretty much available to you at any given time. Obviously, if you go around and scout other players, you can also go around and scout. Of course, you'll run into different footholds. Like here, for example, I could go out and hit Tormentor footholds. There's obviously tons of things you can do in terms of threats. And this is, in my opinion, this is kind of a later game tip, but you always want to basically go out and hit what you can. Obviously, if you get zeroed enough times, right, you're going to struggle. But and the truth be told is obviously you almost have to make a habit of shielding or hiding in this game, because otherwise you're going to really struggle in this game. it's really dependent on you to basically go into your state buffs and making sure you pop a 24-hour shield so that you can get all of those bonuses to keep your troops from dying. Of course, that's obviously not to say that there aren't other bonuses and such. Like obviously, if you're going to go gathering, hit gathering speed, like any of your major buffs, it's relatively straightforward for that. But of course, you can always go out and gather, do your red guard camps with your alliance if you can, and then just maintain it. I mean, that's really about all there is to playing Guns of Glory, more or less. And you can always build multiple accounts, right? Build farms and then burn the farms if you need extra resources if you're struggling. And again, I would recommend, this is like my fifth tip, is I recommend you do play a game like Guns of Glory on an emulator like BlueStacks, Nox, what have you. And all you do on an Android emulator is just have multiple accounts running, and then you can just kind of basically run your accounts from there. Is how I recommend doing it. And I don't know, once you've gotten to that point in the game, then the rest of it is just a matter of nitpicking it and building and progressing from there. I mean, really about all you can do from this point forward at this point, if you've done everything I've suggested. I mean, obviously upgrading your embassy would be my sixth tip. That's going to give you more helps, so it's just kind of a no-brainer. You obviously have to have an upgraded embassy. If you're going around raiding and rallying, then you want to have your Hall of War upgraded. If you're doing a lot of rallies and that, that's going to be the next thing you're going to be focusing on. Of course, you can go to your sanctuary, so if you ever lose any troops, you can get your troops resurrected from here. So you're never going to like truly lose anything, and that's the nice thing, is I can always go back to my sanctuary. The holy water you get from food gathering, so you'll always be able to get your troops back. That's the one thing that's kind of nice, right? Is that you're never going to get like totally crippled. So like as you can see here, I've got some of my troops back. One thing you want to pay attention to though is you want to look at your might and then look at what you need. So obviously, I've only got 1.6, so I need to be going down a little bit. I need to hit something like probably 14. That is, of course, it can be found. Sometimes you don't get that lucky. So like there, I've got a level 15 I can hit, so I can go out and attack it, and I'll just build in progress and save my stuff that way. And ultimately, once you've actually gotten enough loot, my seventh tip is if you are a spender, obviously check the description down below if you're wanting to save money playing the game, because again, when you're trying to spend and progress in a game like this, you're going to need every discount you can get. The Honor Challenge is one of the better loot drops in this game, I would argue, because almost everything you can get out of these airship challenger chests, or any of these challenge chests in general, often pay out really well. So like here, we'll go ahead and pop it and see what we get. So like there, I got a stupid amount of stuff right there. Like that's actually kind of a crazy amount of airship parts, a crazy amount of crimson gold. Like it adds up, but it's like one of those things that you can get it purely free to play, right? But you can also just as easily get it through pay to win mechanics. So it's ultimately up to you how you want to decide that. For my ninth tip, I would say that if you've already established which set of alliance heroes you're going to use, or your guards, I guess, for that matter, always make sure to appoint your guards and make sure you've got your highest tier guards in their slots, because this is what's going to give you the discounts and bonuses that you're going to need for different things. Like obviously you're going to want a higher level for any number of things, because this is going to increase or decrease depending on what you're doing. Of course, you would say for the last 10th tip is obviously have different sets of gear for different occasions. So if you're gathering, have one set for one thing. If you're going out and attacking, another set for another thing. You want to be able to rotate between your gear sets, so that way you're not struggling too much. It's really not terribly difficult. Of course, the skills and the talents, you can always adjust anything that you want in terms of the game, but one of the things that I would say almost universally is go into your economy tree and just spend all your talent points and going in direction of increasing your research speed and your production. Eventually, you'll get to a point where then you'll want to have a set of talents set up for attacking players as well. But again, this is just something else to look at and kind of nitpick. Outside of that, though, those are my 10 tips for the game, and I hope these help you out. If you want to come and play with me in Guns of Glory, I'm in Kingdom 910, and I am currently in Valhalla, or Val. So I don't know. Things have been kind of going south, though, I believe, with the Alliance, but it's been kind of going up and down, but that's to be expected in these kind of games. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.